Hello, my name is Holly Flank, and this is my sprint for this week. Was sick on Monday, so I didn't really do anything. Two, I finished doing, the combat UI for, the attack boxes. So at first, I think I only had his done, and I had started doing, his, and I finished them, and all that, and then I did this one too. So I did that on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I worked on a little bit more of the combat UI. I fixed a thing. It was this. I accidentally put a white border around this guy, but I didn't do it on any of the other ones, so I had to fix it. I totally forgot, but I fixed it. I worked on a start menu, which the start menu is for the entire game, because for our game, we had this setup of fantasy, and then it transfers into sci-fi, and then it transfers into like this fourth wall breaking kind of thing. And when we were doing it, we realized that it was a little much to do all of those this semester. So for this little prototype that we're having by the end of the year, we're just going to work on the fantasy world, but the whole menu is going to be, this is the fourth wall breaking font kind of thing. This one's the fantasy font. This is a sci-fi font. We have two different sci-fi fonts, but so, and then these will probably change as well. These are little icons for the fantasy world, but I'll probably put the fourth wall breaking world once our artist gets those done. She's not done yet though. And then I had to separate the buttons for and I had to empty the buttons too off the screen for our programmers, for Casey and Eli. And then I did a pause menu as well. And I did the character selection for the fantasy world. Let me find it. There it is. So they look like these. I gotta remove this. I have to do this again. I still got a little bit of UI stuff left to do, but not much. UI is pretty much done at this point. So there's character selection. That's for the bird person. And this box is where they're going to be, except they're going to be in their little idle position. So that's going to be in programming or in the actual thing. Because I made all these in Photoshop, and then I've given them to the boys to then put into the engine. So they're going to put the little character right here doing the idle position. And maybe a background. They're probably going to put some sort of background. This will take up a little bit of the screen. It's not that big. It'll take up a little bit. And then on the side they can click the Jester and the Dragon Boy as well. This is the Dragon Boys. And they each has their backstory on how they're starting the adventure, as well as little bits about them, their attacks and their special and their weapon and their type. And then if this is the one you want to play with, you just press, you click, this will be a button, but I separated the button, I have to separate it off of those. And I made a walking UI, which was very simple. All they wanted was a compass that I made, and then the coins. It's really tiny. I made it in a pixel art thing, but it's 64 by 64. So it's really tiny, but it's just going to be in the corner, and then it'll update the money as you get it. They got it to work with the fonts so that we can have the fonts in the game, since you can't install fonts on the computers in the Commons, but they found a way to just put the fonts into the game engine without having to install them, and then they can type things and it'll update with that font and all this stuff. give apologies. My cat interrupted. Oh, I also made these, which are dialogue boxes, because we have our little, like, game people. So the dialogue is basically, I have to make a white one actually, for when the king speaks. Because the whole point of it is that it's all fourth wall breaking, and it's actually the three of us, me, Casey, and Eli, talking this player through this game that we built, and things start going wrong. So we have these little text boxes, which are just this, and they'll update right here, and our names will be above it. And our artist is going to make little characters of us that'll stand next to the boxes, and we're basically just going to be like, so welcome to our game, and they're going to like explain things, and it's going to be really funny in some areas, hopefully. So that's what I've done, is these. And then I started writing the dialogue that we're going to be. So when the game starts in the fantasy world, King Quest, the king, just goes to give you your quest. So this is everything he's going to say. There's a little bit more, I'm not done. But me as the designer cuts it off and says, everything he says is boring, and it's supposed to be really funny, and the fact that, like, you're just gonna go get this thing for him and defeat the boss, it's really low level, none of this is really important, but the entire time, he's actually explaining to you how to win the game, like how to beat every enemy and how to beat the boss and what each of them does, but you don't get to see any of it because it's gonna get skipped through by me, and it's this little funny thing where Casey and Eli will go, didn't you write all this? Didn't it take you a long time to write? Don't you want them to see it? And I'm like, it's a lot of nonsense. So I'm going to finish writing this, and then I have to write our dialogue that we're going to be saying throughout the game. But that'll come later. I'm going to start writing it in the sprint that we put together, this one. I put them at the bottom, these, not this, but this, because it's going to be a lot of just editing and a lot of things that'll pop up randomly that we're going to want in it. So I'm going to constantly write the story throughout every single sprint and update it and make it better as we go. So it doesn't really have, I didn't put this because it didn't really matter. It's in all the sprints, really. So I'm going to write it throughout. I will show the art. The boys will show it too, but I'll do the cycle gifts. Our artist has made sorry, I'm drawing a blank. There we go. She did little walking animations. She's working on the idle animations. This is the side view. This is the dragon boy and his side view. And the jester and his side view. So, we got those in the game. We have to get her to do them going the opposite direction and this way, because you'll see their back when they walk this way, kind of like in Pokemon. So she's going to start working on that, and she's also going to work on their idle animations, and she started to, she's going to start working on, she made an enemy, and she's done the attack animations for them and idle animations for them. She has to put them in the drive so that we can put them in the game. But she's been working really hard, and she has made faster progress than we expected. When we were doing the product backlog in the sprint, we were like, oh, dude, frick, her doing the art is going to take forever, but it actually hasn't taken her that long at all. But she's got to do idle animations for them, and the rest of the walking animations as well as their attack animations, which will probably take a while, but she started working on all of them, and then of course she's doing the enemies, and she'll have to do the boss at some point. She's also going to have to do a sprite with an idle sitting animation for the king, but we got to figure out how to do cutscenes first, just an uncontrollable scene. It's been a learning curve since we're using Godot, which is something we've never used before, so it's been a learning curve kind of thing. But that's pretty much what I've done for all of the sprint. Next sprint, I gotta work on updating I gotta go through all the UI and see what I need to fix in here, as well as work on the story some more. So that's probably what I'm gonna end up doing, and anything else that they need. And I'm trying to keep up to date with the artist, keep her kind of on track kind of thing. But yeah, that's my sprint.